There we go. Hello, YouTube. Hey, guys, let me get TikTok rolling here. All right. Hello, all. TikTok, boom, and we are set. I was saying Discord was being a little bit evil. It was making me update the software, and I like sit here waiting to go live while it's updating software. All right, TikTok, boom, and boom. Beautiful day here, actually, in DC. 57, but like sunny and nice. Very nice out. All right, we are live. Woo-woo! Oh, that's interesting. Gunther had a little bit of a Discord epiphany. Deleted the app and reinstalled it, and the video now works. Interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, because a number of people have that problem. I like it's random, the people that it affects. That's funny. I mean, we should have tried that, obviously. That was sort of an obvious thing to try. I'm surprised we didn't. Anyway, welcome, TikTokers. Welcome, YouTubers. Oh, microphone on TikTok. We could do that, I guess, if we have to. TikTokers get very particular about their. I know, Kano. And Joshua, what's up? There we go. Oh, I dropped my glasses. All right. There we go. TikTok, you got your good mic now. Well, and I mean, it's my good mic anyway, so I might as well use it. Okay. Welcome, everybody. It's Monday. All right. Everything's copacetic. We got everything working. I got my water. I made. Oh, that's what that new thing is. Thank you, Tattooed Mom. Beautiful crown. I was wondering what that was. That is hilarious and ridiculous at the same time. Thank you, guys. Thank you for the hearts as well. That's very funny. Anyway, so what do lots of news today. Actually, I've got a lot of news. Let's see if I go through all of it. I've got like 6 pages of news. This is sort of back to our busier. You know what it is? There were a couple stories that I thought were very interesting. So I copied the entire story to read you, not the entire story, but like 4 paragraphs to read to you guys because I think they're interesting stories. So anyway, all right, let's get rolling here. So welcome, guys. The way I do the show is as you guys know, we talk part of the show about the latest from Trump land, part of the show, the latest from Ukraine. We'll start with Trump land first. Oh, thank you. Who is that with the gift there? Thank you, Tattooed Mom. We'll start with Trump land first, then to Ukraine, and then I'll conclude with a Trumpy story. Yeah, that's about it. Keep the gifts coming. Thank you, TikTokers already. I do this for a living, guys. That's why I hit you up for gifts, because the gifts help pay the bills. So thank you for that. All right, let's get rolling. So there was a really weird story today, a true story about, oh God, they're not really quite ready for prime time, these Trump people, which is surprising because they were in office before. Thank you, Sandria. Thank you, Marie. Thank you, Oliver. Trump's top national security officials, National Security Advisor, CIA Director, Secretary of State, Secretary of Defense, Vice President, right? The most senior national security officials in America. They decide they're going to hold their conversation on Signal. Signal is it's not a social media app. That wouldn't be what I would call it. It's a text messaging app. It is very good. It is very secure. I use it. A lot of American political people use Signal. It is highly recommended that we use it. It doesn't have the creepy problems that Telegram has, being a Russian app, that some of the other services have that are owned by, I forget if they're owned by Facebook or whoever they are. But Signal Signal's really the best from everything people have told me compared to all the other services. But there's a couple problems with Signal. If you use it on a regular phone, which we're sure the Trump people are doing, meaning your regular iPhone, not a hardened iPhone, not an iPhone that has been specially manufactured by the CIA or the NSA, you could have Signal, which is a very good app, but your phone itself could be compromised and people could still read all of your messages. The Russians, the Chinese, the Iranians. And they probably are, because that's what the Trump people do. Donald Trump routinely during his first term used a regular phone because he didn't care. And our national security, of course, was at risk because that's what happens. Well, the other way that national security could be at risk from you using Signal for our Secretary of Defense, our CIA Director, our Secretary of State, our Vice President, how they could put our national security at risk is if you're an idiot and you invite a reporter to be part of your discussion group. Our idiot national security advisor, Trump's national security advisor. I did not have a haircut, Dave. This is the same hair for the last month and a half, but thank you. Glad it looks good. Trump's national security advisor creates a group on Signal, and it's like a text messaging group. And he puts all the people I just told you: Secretary of Defense, CIA Director, Vice President, Secretary of State. puts them in a signal group. And like an idiot, for some reason, he invites Jeffrey Goldberg, who's a top reporter at The Atlantic, the Atlantic Monthly. Goldberg gets the message and thinks, okay, either first he got the message to join the group, and he goes, this is weird. I'm getting the message from Trump's national security advisor to join a group. He goes, maybe Trump's guy is reaching out to me, right? Because maybe, he goes, but the Trump people are very critical of this reporter. He goes, so I thought, kind of weird that they're reaching out. He assumes it's a fake, that it's somebody spoofing and pretending to be the national security advisor of the White House. Right. It could be a prank. Exactly what Kepps is saying, that he thought it was a prank, but he accepted it anyway. He said, because he said, you know what if it really is the national security advisor trying to reach me? So I accepted the invite. He goes, then a couple days later, I start getting messages from all these different people, and they're things like, and their names are like, JD Vance, SM, Stephen Miller, Marco Rubio, MR, some like initials for Marco Rubio. He goes, and Hegseth, I think Hegseth's name was literally Hegseth. I think JD Vance's might've been JD Vance. He goes, and I see them talking about meetings in the White House and meetings in the Situation Room, because then I see them discussing about bombing Yemen and going after the Houthis, and how in the next 36 hours or 48 hours, they were going to bomb Yemen. And he goes, and that's when I realized they literally, I was watching the White House and Trump's, this is the reporter at The Atlantic. He goes, I realized the Trump White House had accidentally invited me into a chat conversation with the CIA director, the defense secretary, the vice president, and the secretary of state, and the national security advisor, all discussing top secret U.S. plans to bomb Yemen in the next 48 hours. And we did bomb Yemen. They shared all their plans with the reporter. Now, the reporter, to his credit, didn't publish, obviously, the details, because he's a good reporter. You're not going to jeopardize a U.S. operation. But he did end up publishing some of the messages. I've got to see if I've got one on here. Among the things they discussed, they also discussed JD Vance complaining. JD Vance was complaining because we're going to go and bomb Yemen because the Houthis in Yemen are the terrorist group that keep going after international trade. They keep blowing up boats and things that are stopping. And like I think that's a third of shipping, of worldwide shipping actually goes via that area there by Yemen, Saudi Arabia. And the U.S. was planning on blowing the hell out of these guys to try to stop them from attacking commercial shipping. And what Vance was saying was he was getting annoyed. Thank you, Corazon. He was getting annoyed because he said that I'm trying to pull this up. Here we go. Here's some of them. That basically he felt the Europeans should be doing the bombing. Why is America doing it and Europe isn't, right? So Hegseth, or JD Vance gets pissed off and says, this is literally so the reporter published the messages. This is literally the messages. JD Vance to Pete Hegseth, Secretary of Defense. If you think we should do it, let's go, meaning the bombing. I just hate bailing Europe out again. Let's just make sure our messaging is tight here. And if there are things we can do up front to minimize risk to Saudi. So he's pissed that we're helping the Europeans out, right? Hegseth responds, VP, I fully share your loathing of European freeloading. It's pathetic, capital P-A-T-H-E-T-I-C. But Mike is correct, and they go on. So knocking Europe again, big surprise. They also, at one point, Vance kind of criticized Trump, which was interesting, because Vance at one point was talking about how Trump wasn't really aware of what was going on, which I thought was interesting. These people are crazy, guys. So just if anybody's late joining us here, we're talking about the fact that Trump's top national security officials, CIA director, Pentagon, defense secretary, Vice President Vance, thank you, Mrs. Toad, all of these guys texted U.S. war plans for bombing Yemen, texted them to a reporter that they accidentally invited to their chat group on Signal. And one of the ways we know these are real is because they literally talked about the U.S. attack, and the U.S. attack happened 2 days later, and nobody else knew about the attack other than this reporter because he had all the messages about the attack. So it sure looks like it's real. Yeah. And these guys are freaking morons. I know it could be an interesting hoax, but looks to be real, guys. And again, you know, we're talking about the Trump administration. Does anybody doubt that these guys would accidentally invite a reporter because, you know? So anyway, not very good. Alec got his pocket coffee today. Lovely. People are ordering the, I had shown you guys these wonderful little pocket coffees I got in Italy that are a wonderful Italian invention. Thank you, Flamingo. Very cool. Oh, Swan sent it. Thank you, Swan, for sending this, Flamingo. These little, they're like little espressos wrapped, espresso liquid wrapped in chocolate, and they're very nice. Ferrero, exactly. Anyway, tax revenue. So Elon Musk, it looks like, and I know you'll be very sad to hear this because you know how much I'm a fan of Elon Musk. It looks like Elon Musk is about to cost the U.S. taxpayers $500 billion a year. That's billion with a B. B. So the tax authorities informed us today that U.S. tax revenues are plummeting in just the last month or so. And it appears that U.S. taxpayers are no longer paying their taxes. About 10% of U.S. taxpayers have pulled the plug. They're literally not filing taxes this year. These are people who filed previously. They're not filing taxes this year. Why? Because Elon fired all the tax collectors. Elon has already fired thousands of people at the IRS. I forget the number exactly. I've got it here. The number of additional people they're planning on firing is, they've already dismissed 11,000 workers at our IRS, our Internal Revenue Service. That's the U.S. tax agency, basically, federal tax agency. They've already fired 11,000 of the employees. By the way, our tax season is just starting. By April 15th of this year, we have to pay our taxes. Our taxes are for the year, right? It ended December 31st, but our taxes are so hard in this country that they give us 4 months to prepare our tax document. It's horrible. So we get until April 15th to actually report our taxes for last year. They fired everybody right before tax season, or it literally is tax season. So they fired 11,000 workers. They're planning to fire another 20,000 workers. Most of those workers are coming from the enforcement branch. They're the actual people who investigate, basically, so people don't cheat. And what the IRS experts are saying now is that they've already got the numbers in, and it's clear we are going to have about 10% of the U.S. taxes we got last year are not going to be paid this year. It's going to be worth $500 billion a year. That's almost the size of our defense budget. Our defense budget is $800 billion a year. Just to give you a sense of how much money this is, right? We spend a ton on defense. This is 60% of our defense budget, 500 billion versus 800 billion, okay? And the reason the IRS is giving for people not paying their taxes is because they saw that Trump fired all the tax authorities, the tax agents, and they think they can get away with not paying now, so they're not paying. $500 billion a year. And they do know this will happen, Tony, because the whole article, if you bother reading it in the Washington Post, goes through all the data. The data's already going like this. They're seeing, compared to last year, the tax numbers are plummeting all of a sudden, just as Trump is cutting all the employees. And they're seeing in the online chatter, because they're doing a lot of analysis of stuff online, that people are literally talking about it, that the amount of chatter from U.S. taxpayers online has gone through the roof, of people saying that they're not going to pay because now they can get away with it because Trump and Elon fired all the tax collectors. I just, and again, keep in mind, most of the money Elon cut was fake. We now know. The top 5 budget savings Elon Musk claim he made, the top 5 biggest ones were fake. He had to delete them. He literally had to delete them off. They have a website. Doge, his little organization, set up a website. The very top 5 ways they saved us money was fake. They had to delete them all. I mean, and now, like I said, $500 billion a year that Elon is costing us, guys, by doing this. And of course, Trump too, because Trump okayed it, but it was Elon. $500 billion? Like I said, that is almost our defense budget. That's how much money this is. They're never going to save this kind of money. I mean, the money they're looking at saving at the Social Security, well, Social Security, let's see, because they're trying to cut that too. I'll talk about that later. That story we're going to talk about at the end. I'm just blown away by this. So another story out there, Trump is threatening war with Denmark again. He threatened to take Greenland again in the last day. He sent a delegation over to, putatively, it's for some celebration. I don't know what the hell it is, but they sent JD Vance's wife to to Greenland to go covet Greenland. He's literally threatening war with NATO. Do you know how happy the Russians are right now that Trump is threatening war with NATO over Greenland? Because Greenland is part of Denmark. Denmark is part of NATO. The only way we're going to get it from Denmark is if we invade and go to war. And if we go to war, all the other NATO allies are required to come to Denmark's defense if we invade Greenland. And Greenland's defense, frankly, because Greenland's part of NATO too. I mean, Putin will love it. I don't feel bad. No. Candace said, poor Usha. No. JD Vance's wife, she knows what she's doing, right? She's not some wallflower. She knows what she's doing. She decided to go. She wanted to go. This is like Melania. She decided to go and lend her name and lend her face to this effort to basically go to war with NATO, to steal Greenland from the Danes. She added her, she went, she's not some, I know, but I mean this though. I think like people like to do this sometimes. I'm not accusing you of being sexist, but it's almost a little bit of a sexist attitude, I think, towards women sometimes, that people think, oh, that poor woman being sent there, right? As if she can't tell her husband no, right? She's going because she wants to go. She can tell her husband no. She could be like, I'm not going to freaking Greenland. You think I'm not going to attach my name to that controversy, right? He suggested it and she thought, yeah, that sounds fun. No, she, just like Melania, she can say no. Exactly, Helion. She can say no, very bad. Let's move on with Ukraine news. There's a good amount of Ukraine news. Well, last time, actually, by the way, I forgot to say, last time Trump staged a U.S. visit to Greenland, and a couple of months ago, maybe, or a month ago, I guess, because he's only been in office 2 months. Thank you, Blue, for the gift. They hired a bunch of homeless people to come inside and have like a welcoming lunch with them. And they held up like, they put on MAGA hats. They literally hired homeless people to wear MAGA hats in Greenland and pretend like they were Greenlanders, really excited about the Trump delegation coming. And they have pictures of them, and they invited them to lunch. And they have pictures of these homeless people wearing MAGA outfits as if they're Greenlanders who showed up because they want to be part of America, and they're poor people, literally poor people who didn't have food, shouldn't say didn't have food, but they're poor and needed help. And the Trump people used them and pretended like they were Greenlanders there to support Trump. My God. Any case, all right. It is day 1,123 of Vladimir Putin's special 3-day military operation in Ukraine. The U.S. and Russian officials have wrapped up day-long talks in Saudi Arabia. The latest talks for the peace negotiations were happening today in Saudi Arabia. The focus was on the ceasefire, of course. What else we got here? No word on any agreement. A Russian source told Reuters that a draft joint statement had been sent to Moscow and Washington for review. Basically, no agreement was reached. They reached some joint statement that they sent to their capitals, and if the capitals agree, they will both sign the joint statement, America and Russia. Doesn't sound like much progress, to be honest. What else we got here? Yeah, that's about it on that. Oh, God. So speaking of the negotiations, Trump's main negotiator, I would say screwed up, but this is the Trump administration. This is on purpose. He came out and endorsed pretty much all the main Russian talking points with regards to the war in Ukraine. Now, Trump has already done this repeatedly before. Top Trump aides have done this. Trump himself has blamed NATO. He's blamed the United States. He does that a lot, blames America first. and by the way, I wish Democrats would use that. I've said that from the beginning. Blame America first. They ought to use that expression for Trump nonstop, but he does. He blamed America for the invasion, not the Russian thugs who actually invaded. The Trump's main Russia negotiator, Steve Witkoff, claimed that Ukrainians in eastern Ukraine. I'm going to get my little map. Hold on. I think Damien moved my map. There it is. Okay. All right. Damien was over and he moved my map, and I said, don't put my map too far away. I'm going to need it for the show. Eastern Ukraine. Okay. Eastern Ukraine. Well, especially over here. This is where the Russians invaded, but the East probably goes a little bit over like to Kharkiv. Basically, and I'm not going to be able to get I'm not going to be able to tell you. What I can tell you exactly is where Russia has invaded and stolen. Russia has invaded and stolen this part of Ukraine. Okay. This part of Ukraine speaks Russian. A lot of it. Kharkiv does too. Kharkiv's still free. A lot of these people speak Russian. A lot of the rest of Ukraine speaks Ukrainian. Now, a lot of people speak both languages, right? It's like any other country that has two languages. Canada has English and French. The Belgians, I never want to guess is it Walloon? I always forget what they call the Belgian other language, but the Belgians have French. They have that other language. They might even have a third language in Belgium. I forget. But a number of countries have got multiple languages, multiple official languages. Actually, Singapore, where I was, well, interestingly, Singapore, the official language is English, but then you get Chinese, I think Hindu. I'm trying to remember. Is it Malay? Chinese, Malay, and I'm forgetting the other ones. But in any case, you've got a lot of countries that have multiple languages. Trump's chief negotiator came out today, or this weekend, I should say, in the last day, and claimed that Eastern Ukraine, they speak Russian anyway. They want to be Russian. It's really Russian because they speak Russian. Okay. And and he claimed, this is all false, of course. He claimed falsely they want to be Russian in Eastern Ukraine. And they said, how do you know that? And he says, there was a referendum and they let people vote and they freely voted saying they want to be part of Russia. Yep. Do you know who did that referendum? Who do you think ran that referendum? Vladimir Putin. After Russia invaded, after Russia occupied Eastern Ukraine, after Russia turned it into a Russian police state, Russia had a vote. Okay. So Russia invades Eastern Ukraine. Russia turns it into a police state. Okay. By the way, remember the pictures and the videos? They showed up at people's doors with machine guns to have them vote. They literally showed up at these old ladies' doors with guys with machine guns and said, you need to vote. Well, how do you think they voted when the guy with the machine gun, who was Russian, showed up at the door, right? You think they voted for liberation? The second thing, a lot of Ukrainians left Eastern Ukraine because the Russians invaded, have occupied it, and turned it into a Russian police state. The people who want to be part of Ukraine, a lot of them left because they're living under a Russian police state, right? If you wanted to be American and the Russians took the east coast of America and turned it into a Russian dictatorship, I would not stay here. I would leave here and get the hell into real America. But then I don't get to vote in the referendum. So anyway, obviously it's a Putin referendum. Russian elections are not real. Putin's last election, he won. I always forget you guys know the number. Was it 87.8%? Something like that Putin won in the last election like a year ago. Total BS, of course. Those are like, North Korean numbers. But yeah, so Trump's chief negotiator literally repeated Vladimir Putin's fake talking point, claiming the Ukrainians want to be Russian anyway. Yeah, they don't want to be Russian. They really don't. And it's obscene for the U.S. to be saying that, but that's who we voted for. Little more here. He recently as well did an interview with Tucker Carlson, who's the Russian sycophant that used to be on Fox News and then quit or they fired him actually because of sexual harassment claims. And also he cost the network almost $1 billion because he was telling lies about the election and got caught and then sued. Witkoff was on Tucker Carlson talking about the mutual attraction between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin and how Vladimir Putin likes Donald Trump so much. Do you know what? Putin told Witkoff when he was in Moscow recently that he likes Trump so much that when Trump got shot, he prayed for him. He prayed for Donald because he likes Donald so much. And they believed that. I mean, again, Putin, the KGB spy, the ultimate king of manipulation, right? Told the American officials, I was so upset they prayed for Donald. And Trump's negotiator was so touched by it that he repeated it. Witkoff went on to claim that Putin, oh God, this is the other thing he claimed this weekend. He claimed that Putin wants peace. Putin really wants peace. And that it was quote, preposterous for Europeans to suggest that Putin's a threat to Europe. Preposterous, because he's talked to Putin, and it's literally, I watched this part of the interview. He's talked to Putin, and Putin has made it clear he wants parts of Ukraine because he thinks they're Ukrainian, but not all of Ukraine. Oh no, he just wants the parts he's currently got, and then he'll leave Ukraine alone. Any idiot, by the way, who studied this knows that in fact Putin talked about all of Ukraine. He's written about all of Ukraine being Russian, not just the eastern parts, but put that aside. But Putin made clear he's only interested in Ukraine. He's not interested in war with Europe. He's never going to invade Europe. And Trump's guy literally called it preposterous that the Europeans are worried about Putin causing a war and invading. I just, you know, oh man. Oh, these people, it boggles my mind. Absolutely boggles my mind. More weird comments from Trump today. Trump said that, Trump said that today with the Russians, we talked about Ukrainian territory. We were going to give up to them. And Trump once again reiterated he wants Ukraine's power plants to be owned by the U.S. We don't know why. By the way, keep the gifts coming, guys. Consider subscribing to YouTube and, Discord, but you guys are probably, not all of you are, just some of you are subscribers. But Discord, TikTok, or YouTube, become a monthly subscriber. It helps me out if you can. But at the very least, the gifts are very welcome. Thank you, Sharon, who just got the cake. Thank you for the cake. Oh, Chaz, thank you for that. And thank you, Addie. Trump claimed, some people are saying, whenever Trump says some people, he means he's lying, by the way. Some people are saying the United States should own the nuclear power plant in Ukraine because we have the expertise. Trump, and it's not clear why, Trump got it in his head, in his brain, that it would be really cool if America owned Ukraine's nuclear power plant. Guys, somehow for his legacy, and it doesn't make sense here, but thank you, Jen. Thank you, Jessica, for the gifts. But Trump has decided he needs to expand American territory abroad for his legacy. That's why he's talking about invading Panama and taking the Panama Canal. That's why he's talking about, possibly invading Canada, I guess, and taking part of Canada. He talked about the fact that he no longer recognizes the Canadian border as being legitimate. He said that. That sounds like you're planning on invading. He talked about invading Greenland and taking Greenland away from Denmark at war. He's talked about taking Gaza. Remember, we were going to take Gaza and build a big resort there. And now he's talking about minerals in Ukraine, and now he's talking about the power plant in Ukraine. Somehow, whether it's somebody, I don't know. I guarantee you what happened was somebody talked to Trump and said, do you know the U.S. hasn't expanded in this amount of time? Like, when is the last time? Here's a good question. Anybody out there know? When is the last time the U.S. added new territory? Okay. I'm not talking about adding a new state, right? We got Alaska 1860s. When was Alaska, right? We got Alaska all the way back then, but Alaska didn't become a state until, was it 1859? I'm forgetting exactly. Right. But Hawaii, Guam, when's the last time we added territory? That literally land that wasn't American became American. I don't know. Does anybody know? I'm just kind of curious. Because I think somebody went to Trump and said, it's been almost 100 years. No, that's not true, Cop K9. Alaska belonged to the U.S. back in the 1800s. I said, when is the last time that America took over land that did not belong to America? That's the question. I don't know. Guam, Mariana Islands. Was it World War II, basically? Arctic? But Guam and Samoa, that's what I don't know. I don't know when Guam, and again, I'm talking when Guam became owned by the U.S. Thank you, Dark Side. What, you think it was Guam? Again, I know I'm kind of asking you guys and you're all over the place, but But my guess is 1947. So some people are saying Mariana Islands. So it looks like it might have been the Pacific, World War II. Marshall Islands. I'm just asking when is the last time we already had, well, Hawaii, I'm going to guess was a territory too. When is the last time the U.S. took possession of land that belonged to another country or was independent? I didn't say when it became a state, when it became U.S. owned. So it looks like maybe Mariana Islands. Okay. So 75 years ago, we're saying, I guarantee you somebody went to Trump and said, it's been almost 100 years since the U.S. got additional land. You could be the first president in 100 years. I didn't see your meerkat. Sorry, Lori. I was looking away. Did you do? I'm sorry. Sorry about that. Oh, there it is. I'm sorry. I mean, I believed you, but there it is. I must have been looking at the other screen to see what people had. Sorry about that. Thank you for that, though. I was looking away to see what people. The problem is, you may know this. I've got TikTok on here. I've got YouTube on my computer screen over here. And then I've got Discord on a third screen in between the two. My camera is both here. So like the Discord people, I'm looking at Discord, but you see me looking away because you're over here. So sorry about that. But I'm like, I try to look back and forth so that I'm like giving folks equal time, but it means I don't always see stuff. So thank you. Okay. So it looks like it's Mariana Islands. Looks like it was about 80 years ago. And yeah, so I guarantee you 75 years, 80 years ago, Trump was told almost 100 years, our territory, you could be the first president in 100 years to expand U.S. territory. And he got it in his head. And that's why, and knowing Trump too, being kind of the prevaricator, Trump wants to be able to say, I added Ukraine. Hey, Trump, we own minerals in Ukraine. We own land. America expanded. We have land now. Or the power plant. That power plant is American territory, right? He wants something. Oh, hello. Who was that? Tattooed. Thank you, Tattooed. Very cool. Future encounter. Thank you for that. The idea came from somebody. Clearly it came from somebody. What else we got? Okay. Zelenskyy made some comments that I don't think are terribly helpful. He did an interview with Time Magazine that was very interesting, but he made comments about Trump in the White House that I think were a mistake. It shows that Zelenskyy is still kind of pissed off. These comments strike me as a mistake. And what I mean is, of course he's right, but right now he needs Trump, even though Trump is horrible. He needs Trump, and he shouldn't be pissing Trump off. Listen to this. In an interview with Time Magazine, Zelenskyy said the Kremlin has successfully managed to convince members of the Trump administration to believe false narratives about the war. Thank you, Pedro. Thank you, Molly. Quote, I believe Russia has managed to influence some people on the White House team through information, he said. Their signals to the Americans were that the Ukrainians do not want to end the war and something should be done to force them. Excuse me. Thank you, Pedro. Thank you, Andrew. Zelenskyy mentioned then he mentioned the Oval Office fight with Trump and J.D. Vance. And again, when you're asked about the fight with J.D. Vance in the Oval Office, you find a way to diffuse it at this point. Zelenskyy referenced the fight and said he was defending the dignity of Ukraine. In that moment, there was the sense of not being allies or not taking the position of an ally. In that conversation, I was defending the dignity of Ukraine. Yes, he was. This is not helpful. Now, the only thing that I'm wondering is, did Time Magazine interview Zelenskyy right after the Oval Office meeting? If he interviewed Zelenskyy right after the meeting, and it was, before they made nice with Trump, I could see Zelenskyy giving a truthful explanation, right? And saying just that. But this is not helpful. It is very not helpful. Thank you, Mrs. Toad, for the dove. Appreciate that. That's all I got to say. It's not helpful. Because you know what? They need Trump right now. He's horrible. He's on Russia's side. He can make things a lot worse. That's it. Doesn't matter if he's right. In politics, you're not right if you do the right thing and it screws your country. That's not the right thing if it screws your country. So thank you, Flower Lady. All right, what else we got here? Oh, this is a wild story. So I was mentioning some of the notes I've got are longer. This was Sky News doing a write-up of the Institute for the Study of War. ISW, I've talked about a lot before. They're an American defense think tank. They're very good. And ISW just did an update on Putin kidnapping Ukrainian children. These numbers are far worse than I knew. As you probably know, Putin has been indicted for war crimes. There's an arrest warrant out from him from the International Criminal Court. They're the people that went after the Germans in World War II, right? So very reputable court. And Putin was indicted because Putin has had a policy from day one going into Ukraine of kidnapping Ukrainian children. The Russians have been kidnapping thousands of Ukrainian children, and then they bring them to Russia and try to brainwash them into thinking they're Russians, literally kidnapping the children as spoils of war to help Russia's population problem. They've taken young babies and have literally changed the babies' birth certificates so the babies will grow up thinking they're Russian because it now shows they were born in Russia, but they actually were born in Ukraine. They have told children like 8 to 15, they've told them either their parents are dead when it's not true, their parents are alive, or when the kids know the parents are alive, they've told the children, we talked to your parents don't love you anymore, and they said to get rid of you, and that's why you're here in Russia, because we love you. Right? Horrific stuff. With that background, let me give you the update. So Institute for the Study of War says that in its latest update, US-based think tank states that when Russian troops rolled across the border into Ukraine in 2022, the groundwork for the massive deportation of Ukraine's children was already in place. So this was Russia's plan when they invaded already, was to steal the children. Ukrainian human rights activists uncovered Kremlin documents dated February 2022, which laid out plans to remove Ukrainian children from orphanages in the occupied Luhansk and Donetsk regions and bring them to Russia. In fact, we saw videos, security cameras from orphanages in those first few months that saw Russian troops going into Ukrainian orphanages and literally on the hunt for children, is what's amazing here. Listen to this. And by the way, somebody's asking if this has been fact-checked. I know he's a troll. All the top newspapers in the world have fact-checked this. The Financial Times has fact-checked this. The New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, the Washington Post. Yale University has a whole office that is devoted to tracking these children. This has been fact-checked to death by all the top media in the world. And by the way, the children literally are gone. And Ukraine has been able to get some of them back. And the children have talked about what the Russians did to them and what the Russians told them. So yeah, it's been fact-checked. Nice try there, Boris. Listen to this. So the in the subsequent 3 years since the invasion, says ISW, Russia has embarked on a Kremlin-directed, deeply institutionalized project to abduct Ukrainian children and forcibly turn them into the next generation of Russians. The think tank says Ukraine has been able to verify Russia's deportation of 19,456 children to date. Meanwhile, and I did not know this, Yale's Humanitarian Research Lab, this is the lab that Trump just defunded. Trump and Elon just cut the money for Yale's university's project that is trying to count and find the kidnapped Ukrainian children who Russia has stolen. Trump just killed the money for the project. And there were some news reports that the Trump people actually deleted the data that Yale had on the Ukrainian children who were missing. Why would Trump do that? You know why. Listen to this. Absolutely incredible. In the the think tank says the Ukrainians, it kind of boggles my mind. I got to tell you, Palestinian supporters need to stop this. Every day I get these Palestinian supporters who keep coming on and trying to join the show live with us when we're talking about other topics. It's incredibly obnoxious. And if you think this is winning me over to your side, I've got news for you. You're doing the exact opposite. So stop it. All right. No, every day, and it's only Palestine. Literally, I'm looking at their profiles when they come. It is literally only the Palestinian supporters. I don't know what the problem is. You do not come onto shows about other topics and keep clicking the button to join the conversation. It's rude and you're pissing people off. So if you think you're helping your cause, you're doing quite the opposite. So stop it. The think tank. So we know that the ISW, the American Defense Think Tank, says 19,456 children have been accounted for that the Russians kidnapped. Yale's Humanitarian Research Lab has placed the number closer to 35,000 children that the Russians have kidnapped from Ukraine. Listen to this. Institute for Study of War, which is the big American defense think tank, adds the true number of deported children is near impossible to verify, but the implication remains the same. Russia has stolen tens, tens of thousands, potentially hundreds of thousands of Ukrainian children with the explicit intent of eradicating their Ukrainian identities and turning them into Russians. I had never seen the number as high as 35,000, which is what Yale is saying. I certainly did not know that we were talking potentially hundreds of thousands of Ukrainian children that the Russians have kidnapped. Why? Because they're having a demographic crisis in Russia, and they're literally kidnapping these children to brainwash them into becoming Russians. And these kids have been at camps where they're beaten. They're asked what their ethnicity is, and if they say Ukrainian, they beat them. They caught one kid singing like some Ukrainian folk song, and they beat him. I mean, it's horrific. Oh, they're kidnapping them from Ukraine. What the Russians are doing is they invade. And one of the orders they got from the beginning was to go and look for orphanages. And if they find orphanages in Ukraine, to go to the orphanage and take all the kids. And they did. Now, what Russia's defenders claim, and I love this. I love it in the sense of like how absurd. The Russian defenders say, oh, but they took kids who lost their parents already anyway. So why is that wrong? In what possible universe do you invade a foreign country, see a kid there whose parents are dead because you killed his parents, but put that aside. You see a kid whose parents are dead, and you have a couple options. Option one, you leave the kid and the kid could die. That's bad. Option two, you take the kid with you because this kid's going to die. That could be good. You take it back to your camp, and they could find a local family to help. There could be a local orphanage. I don't know what, but you then take the kid and you contact the Ukrainians because you are constantly having troop exchanges with the Ukrainians. And you say, in addition to the troops, we also have some of your children who were starving, right? We found them alone in a bombed out building. You could do that. You could call the Red Cross and you could say, Red Cross, our soldiers are such good people that they found children that were alone in rubble, and they took them out and saved them, and we're giving them to you, the Red Cross. That would be very honorable of the Russians as well. The final thing you could do, and this is what the Russians actually did, you could go, ooh, children, how exciting. I just invaded a foreign country and found foreign children. Wouldn't it be neat to steal them, tell them their parents are dead, tell them their parents don't love them, and then we'll make them think they're Russian instead of returning them to their families and the Red Cross and Ukraine. Let's do that. That's what the Russians did. And it boggles my mind because, again, the Russian defenders literally say, what were they supposed to do? Their parents were dead. Again, if their parents were really dead, I don't know, give them to other family, give them to the Red Cross, give them to the Ukrainian government when you do prisoner exchanges. Aren't there so many things you could do? If you invade another country and find a child that's in need, there are a million things you can do other than steal the child and take it home as a puppy. Right? I mean, no normal human being thinks the correct option is to kidnap the child and take it home like you found a puppy. No one thinks that. Thank you, Running. Thank you, Pingu. It's just sickening. It's absolutely sickening. So Belgorod, there has been talk, another story. There's been some talk. The Russians accused the Ukrainians of invading Belgorod. Belgorod is a Russian region right here off of Kharkiv, Ukraine. There's been a lot of fighting there, a lot of bombing, because it's a central point for Russia to help provide supplies to the occupied East. But there's been increased talk in the last few days. It looks like Ukraine might actually be invading Belgorod. They might be trying to take, because they're not doing well in Kursk. Kursk is the other region they had invaded and they were holding. And then the Russians started kicking them out of Kursk. It looks like Ukraine might be, just from looking at the news the last couple of days, they might actually be trying to invade Belgorod and take some of the land there to use as a bargaining chip, because Russia is currently occupying 20% of Ukraine. So the idea is Ukraine gets a little bit of Russia's land, and then maybe they can bargain a little bit, right? Get some of their land back. Finally, two other stories. That Time magazine piece. Zelenskyy said, thank you, Mario. This one kind of made me laugh. Zelenskyy revealed he sleeps under paintings that include at night. He sleeps under 3 paintings at night. One of them shows the Kremlin burning. Another one shows a Russian warship sinking into the sea. And a third shows Ukrainian troops fighting on Russian territory. But his favorite is the one that shows the Kremlin in flames. I mean, you got to love this guy. Thank you, Lorraine. Finally, and I thought this was not finally. I got a couple more stories. Oh no, this was the final. Yeah, this is these. I'm going to mention this briefly. Social Security. So Elon hates Social Security. Social Security is America's pension plan for seniors. We do not have good pension plans like a lot of Europeans do. Most of our companies do not often offer pension plans anymore. They did with my dad's generation, but not anymore. The Social Security is a government plan. We pay into it with each paycheck, and then over decades of working, we then, once we retire, we get payments from the government, and we get an amount each month based on how much money we've paid in. I think the maximum might be $4,500 or $5,000 a month, which is actually quite a lot. That's very rare. I think typically, I don't know what the average is. I'm going to guess the average. Let's ask, although average and median is probably different. I can ask Alexa, she's not very bright, but we can try. Alexa, what is the average Social Security payment in America? God, just a moron. Hey, Google, what is the average Social Security payment in America?
On the website bankrate.com, they say, as of August 2024, the average check is $1,783.55.
Okay, Google, thank you. So the average check is around $1,800. Cheyenne, you got it. You were pretty close. So around $1,800 a month is the average check for Social Security, which, is not nothing. And especially, in Washington, D.C., things are kind of expensive to live monthly. But in a lot of the country, $2,000 a month. Hey, Google, quiet. It won't shut up now. But that's not a bad amount of money. And I'm making all your Googles go off now too. Sorry about that. But that's not a lot of money. So Elon hates Social Security. He's called it a Ponzi scheme. Like it's a scheme. They take your money and you don't get the money back and this kind of thing. Very scary because Elon is dead set on, he's dead set on cutting a lot of money from Social Security. Elon has claimed that he's only going to cut the waste, fraud, and abuse. But as we've seen, most of the money Elon has cut from every other program has not been waste, fraud, and abuse. He cut money for people with AIDS in Africa. He cut money for starving people abroad. Right? He's cut money for our tax collectors. They're gone. That's going to cost us $500 billion a year. Elon has not actually been cutting waste and fraud at all. He now claims he's going to cut waste and fraud at Social Security. The problem is, and I talked about this a couple of weeks ago, Elon claimed that he was going to cut a lot of money from Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. Medicaid is our health insurance program for poor people, more or less. Medicare is our health insurance program for retirees, 65 and older. And Social Security is our pension plan for retirees. Elon claimed he was going to cut all the waste from those three programs, Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. And guess how much waste Elon claimed was there? He claimed half of those programs were waste and abuse that he was going to cut. Half of the program. There is no possible universe in which half of Social Security is fraud. There's no Medicare, same thing. Medicaid as well, but there's zero universe in which it's fraud. If Elon is going to cut half the money in Social Security, half the money in Medicare, and half the money in Medicaid, he's going to cut our benefits because there's no way half the money is fraud. Well, this article today from the Washington Post kind of backs that up. Listen to this. Elon Musk put a big target on the Social Security Administration in the first weeks of the Trump administration, claiming it is plagued by immense waste and promising audits to root out the extreme levels of fraud. Donald Trump said during his joint address to Congress earlier this month that Musk's Doge service was already identifying shocking levels of incompetence and probable fraud at the Social Security Administration. But some of the biggest examples of allegedly wasteful spending held up by Musk and Doge so far have been overblown or inaccurate. Musk's assertion that tens of millions of dead people over 100 years of age are receiving Social Security benefits was so off base that it had to be tamped down by the agency's acting head, who had been promoted because of his willingness to cooperate with Doge. These individuals are not necessarily receiving benefits, the acting director said. Musk's intense focus on Social Security appears central to his promise to slash $2 trillion from the federal budget. The agency distributes $1.6 trillion in benefit payments each year, making up 20% of all federal spending. Its sprawling size would appear to offer plenty of opportunities to root out waste and fraud for those who think such problems are rampant. But less than 1% of Social Security's payments in recent years were determined to be improper. Let me read this again. Less than 1% of Social Security payments in recent years were deemed to be improper, often the result of an accidental oversight or a change in benefit status rather than even being fraud. That works out to about $9 billion a year. And more than 2/3 of the mistaken payments were eventually gotten back. So actually, it works out to be $3 billion a year. Now, to those of you on the outside, $3 billion might sound like a lot of money. It's not. Yeah, let's stop it if you can. Good luck. But when the federal deficit is $2 trillion a year, $2 trillion, $3 billion isn't doing jack. And Elon thinks his big most savings are going to come from Social Security because it's where the money is. But it's not going to come from the fraud because there isn't any fraud. And we know that. It's going to come, if it's going to come from anywhere, it's going to come from our benefits. Now, the other thing I will say more generally, and I've said this before, keep an eye on Elon. If Elon is able to successfully cut $2 trillion from the US budget, we are going to go into a depression. You cannot cut 1/3 of all federal spending like that. You will send the economy into a tailspin. You are going to cut benefits that you and I get. That means less money in our wallet. You're going to cut federal contracts, which they're already doing, that farmers get. $2 billion with a B dollars a year went to U.S. farmers. They bought food from U.S. farmers and shipped that food abroad. Elon killed it. That's $2 billion U.S. farmers are not getting. All the money they're killing, they're getting rid of government workers. Again, $2 trillion. A lot of that money is going to, a small amount of that money actually is going to go to government workers all around the country, living in your states, living in your cities. You cannot take 1/3 of the federal budget and kill it in 1 year and not send the economy into a tailspin. Mark my words. Talk to any economist, do a little Googling. You cannot cut that much money that fast. It is dangerous. It blows my mind. Any case, all right, that is it for the news. I'm going to adjust my camera and relax a little here. Although my back is feeling a little better. Let's see. My back was feeling a little off the other day, but it's feeling a little better now. So hopefully, there we go. Adjust my light a little bit and don't drop you guys. Boom. There we go. All right. What are we doing? So let's talk. So this is a part of the show. We hang out, we talk. You guys can ask questions, give your own comments, talk about Elon, Trump, Ukraine, Russia, whatever you want. So, and my dog at some point will wake up and want water because I'm sure I didn't put water in her bowl, but currently she's asleep underneath. So that's good. I always like to give you guys a quick little view of Sasha underneath. Oops. There we go. There she is in her little pink bed, which I hate, but I was trying to get her a new bed and it was like Amazon Prime Day and they only had pink. And I was like, I hate pink, but I got her pink. What do you do? Anyway, yeah, Vance's wife going to Greenland, I think is horrible. JD Vance's wife is going to Greenland as part of our effort to force or basically steal Greenland from Denmark. And he said his wife agreed to go, which I think is horrible. And I think she should have said no, because she should not be lending her name to such a horrific effort. So, yeah, I saw that about the U.S. attorney that died. I don't know anything about it. So I just don't know if it's real or whatever. Like, I saw it mentioned, but I'm not going to, go into it until I know more, because who knows? You know what I mean? Don't know anything about Polyev. I know who you mean. He's I'm forgetting. He's not he's the other Canadian, right? Am I right? But I don't know anything about him. I've just seen his name come up. So, but he's the other one. He's not the one that just won right. Because the one that won the interim is taking over for Trudeau. Polyev is the conservative, right? Right. He's the right wing guy. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Carney is the prime. Okay. Carney is the one that took over for Trudeau. Right. Yeah. Don't know. Leaked Vance. I did not see any leaked Vance audio. That I did not see. So I don't know. Yeah, the security breach about the bombing was pretty bad. Basically, Trump's people, his senior national security folks, Secretary of Defense, CIA director, vice president, Secretary of State, accidentally invited a top reporter with the Atlantic, Jeffrey Goldberg, I think, invited him to join their top secret conversation on Signal to Goldberg. Yep. To discuss our plans to imminently attack Yemen. And they told him everything. It was crazy. And they talked about Europe. I mean, it was absolutely crazy. These people just boggles my mind. But yes, I did not see any leaked Vance audio. What's that about? I have no idea how they were that dumb to do it. I think it's absolutely true. I guarantee you this is true. If the Atlantic ran with the story, it's true. The Atlantic wouldn't run the story just because somebody texted them. They would confirm it. I guarantee you. I said, let me pull it. Hold on, I'll pull it up again. Because they're too good of a publication. They would have had your same concern. They would have gone, this looks really good, but I don't know. Let me pull this up. Hold on. Oh, hold on. Oh, I didn't text him the story. I texted it to myself, maybe. I thought I texted it to my nephew, but I didn't. Oh, get my glasses. One moment here. Oops. Here we go. Let me just pull this up 1 second. La la la. There we go. All right. Gift article. Boom. Hold on. I'm trying to see. Okay. Really annoying me here. 1 minute later. After receiving the text related to the Houthi PC small group, I consulted a number of colleagues. We discussed the possibility that these texts were part of a disinformation campaign initiated by a foreign intelligence service, or more likely a media gadfly organization, the sort that tries to embarrass journalists. I had very strong doubts that this text group was real, because I could not believe that the national security leadership of the U.S. would communicate on Signal about imminent war plans. I also could not believe that the national security advisor would be so reckless as to include the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic in such discussions. The next day, things got even stranger. At 8 o'clock on Friday, Mike Waltz, allegedly, right, texts the group, team, you should have statement of conclusions with tasking per the president's guidance this morning in your high side inboxes. Blah, 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 blah. Hang on a second. JD Vance character says, team, I'm out for the day doing an economic event in Michigan. Blah, blah, blah. Hold on. I want to see where he goes on about then why he thinks it's real again. Hold on. Well, okay, first of all, he says there was a lot of the chain that was true. After reading this chain, I recognized this conversation possessed a high degree of verisimilitude. The texts and their word choice and arguments sounded as if they were written by the people who purportedly sent them, or by a particularly adept AI text generator. See, so he said he still thought it could have been AI. I was still concerned that this could be a disinformation campaign, and I remained mystified that no one in the group seemed to have noticed my presence. But if it was a hoax, the quality of the mimicry and the level of foreign policy insights were impressive. It was the next morning, Saturday, March 15th, when this story became truly bizarre. At 11:44 a.m., the account labeled Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, posts in Signal a team update. I will not quote from this update or from certain other subsequent texts. The information contained in them, if they had been read by an adversary of the U.S., could conceivably have been used to harm American military and intelligence personnel, particularly in the broader Middle East. What I will say, in order to illustrate the shocking recklessness of this conversation, is that the Hegseth post contained operational details of forthcoming strikes on Yemen, including information about targets, weapons the U.S. would be deploying, and the sequence of the attacks. The only person to reply from Hegseth was the person identified as the vice president. I will say a prayer for victory. According to the text, the first detonations in Yemen would be felt 2 hours hence at 1:45 p.m. Eastern time. So I waited in my car in a supermarket parking lot. If the signal chat was real, I reasoned, Houthi targets would soon be bombed. At about 1:55, I checked X and searched Yemen. Explosions were then being heard across the capital of Yemen. I went back to the signal check. Mike Waltz, right, the national security advisor, had provided the group an update. I won't quote from this text except to note he described the operation as amazingly good. Then the CIA director weighed in. Then Marco Rubio weighed in. It goes on. Yeah. Hold on. I want to see here. The signal chat group, I concluded, was almost certainly real. Yeah. So hang on. Earlier today, I emailed Waltz and sent him a message on his Signal account. I also wrote to Hegseth, Radcliffe, Tulsi Gabbard, and other officials. In an email, I outlined some of my questions. Brian Hughes, the spokesman for the National Security Council, responded 2 hours later, confirming the veracity of the Signal group. This appears to be an authentic message chain, and we are reviewing how an inadvertent number was added to the chain. So they confirmed it. They confirmed it. So that's how. Now, I will say this. I'm not quite sure why the Atlantic guy waited until the end of the article to mention that the White House confirmed it. I mean, personally, that's the kind of thing you put up front, because that was a good question. Like, people were asking it and saying, yeah, but how do you know it wasn't fake? He should have explained at the beginning, first of all. He should have explained at the beginning, by the way, these are totally real. The White House confirmed it, but let me walk you through the story, right? That's what I would have said. Just incredible. Absolutely incredible. I mean, now, the one thing for the reporter, which gets interesting is, and I'll give him credit, because, do you tell them? This is now an ongoing chat group with the Secretary of Defense, the CIA director, right, the Vice President, and the Secretary of State. And for some reason, they've added you on. Why tell them? I mean, it's a very good question. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I wonder if maybe they thought, knowing the Trump people, they'll throw you in jail, even if it's not legal to throw you in jail. I don't know. I mean, my guess is they probably thought the first thing was a mistake. You didn't really believe it. You were sort of going, this can't be true, right? And thinking it still's got to be fake. And then once the bombing happened, you realized it was real. Once you realized it was real, then as a journalist, you're in an interesting ethical situation, because are you eavesdropping? Not entirely, but they don't know you're there, and that it's real at that point. And Blue Ariel raises a good point too. Could you get into trouble for having classified info? It gets interesting at that point. It gets interesting, right? I mean, because what's interesting is you found a back door to get classified information, but the problem is you didn't find the back door. The back door was given to you, right? The information, not even the back door, the information was given to you. That's what's weird about it, because you didn't go and look for it. It was sent to you. But now you're getting the information. Do you have an affirmative duty to tell them? I don't. It's an interesting. I'd almost ask ChatGPT, but I don't think ChatGPT. Let's ask ChatGPT just for fun. Okay, let's ask. Again, I'm not convinced. The more experiences, I think ChatGPT is amazing, but I think it also lies. I caught it lying. I was asking it. I watched the series Sense8 again. Very good. The sex stuff is a bit obnoxious, but very obnoxious actually. Especially the ending. It's disgusting. There's a last scene that's just disgusting. But it's a very good show otherwise. And I asked ChatGPT about the last episode. And I said, I'm not, the last episode, I'm still a little confused. And it starts to tell me the details of the last episode, and it's totally wrong. And it literally made shit up. Well, so-and-so, these two characters took that character and assassinated them. And I'm like, no, they didn't. Like, what are you talking about? ChatGPT has this problem that it lies. And it's something you got to be careful with because it lies incredibly well, and it's not clear why. Let me ask it this. There's a story today from The Atlantic that several of Trump's top national security officials, including the Secretary of Defense, the CIA director, the Vice President, and the Secretary of State, included a reporter inadvertently on a text chat conversation on the Signal app, period. In it, they were discussing U.S. war plans in Yemen, period. The reporter, after he determined that the chat was real, because initially he thought maybe he was being spoofed, reached out to those officials to tell them he was on the chain and to ask them about it, period. Had the reporter not told them, and just remained on the chain for the next 4 years, and received classified information, could he be legally liable, or was he not liable at all because he did not seek the information, they gave it to him willingly, or perhaps not willingly at all since it was a mistake, period. Put on your legal hat and do a legal analysis of the reporter's actions. And again, as I warned you, ChatGPT, I still think bullshits a lot. So you got to be careful. In the U.S., primary laws regarding classified information, Espionage Act criminalizes unauthorized obtaining, transmitting, or retention of classified information. That gets interesting. The government generally cannot restrain the press from publishing information, even classified, unless it poses a clear and imminent and serious threat. Another court case held that the First Amendment protects publishing information of public interest. Applying to this scenario. Oops, it disconnected. Applying to this. Oops. Okay, it's trying again. It lost the connection. That's another thing ChatGPT does. Hold on. Let me see here. It's giving the statutes first. It's taking its time. Give it a second here. Under Section 793, it is unlawful to possess or retain classified information without authorization if the holder has knowledge or reason to believe that the information relates to national defense, fails to deliver the information promptly to authorized government officials entitled to receive it. Interesting, because now the way that's written, it's written as though it's a classified document that you got and you didn't turn over. This is a classified copy of a conversation, right? It's not quite written for text messaging, but it's interesting. Intent and knowledge. The primary legal consideration is intent and knowledge, mens rea. The reporter did not seek out or actively solicit classified information. However, once it became clear that sensitive and classified national defense information was being shared, the reporter would possess actual knowledge of the information's sensitive nature, which I was saying. The key question would then become, did the reporter have an affirmative obligation to report or terminate receipt of this information once aware? That was my question. Under Section 793, once someone knowingly has classified information, the law expects them to report or surrender it to authorities, choosing instead to remain silent. Now, there's an interesting question, though, but as a reporter, that's not true. Reporters get classified information. They don't have to turn it over to authorities. That's not the way it works. The courts differentiate between passive receipt and active solicitation or theft. Passive receipt. Typically, journalists and media outlets receiving classified info passively without having encouraged or conspired to obtain it have rarely faced prosecution due to the First Amendment. If the journalist actively encourages, participates in, or intentionally facilitates unlawful acquisition, this significantly increases the legal liability. Interesting question there, right? You accidentally get it and you go, wait a minute, is this real? Right? You get it because you know you're getting it. I don't know. But then again, if you know you've got a source like Edward Snowden who's giving you classified info, you don't necessarily go to jail, even though you know he's giving it to you and you go, give me more. Let me see here. Oh, now the dog wants water. Conclusion. Initial conclusion, no liability because, hold on, dog wants water, and I'm going to give you the conclusion. 1 second. This is very interesting. Oh, the dog doesn't want water. What are you doing, dog? What are you whining about? Oh, you want to go? Oh, 1 second there. Okay. 1 second. Oops. Sorry. Oop. All right. Let's conclude this. Initial conclusion, mistake. No liability because the reporter did not solicit or knowingly receive classified information initially. Once aware, the information was classified and sensitive. Continuing to silently remain on the chat, knowingly obtaining ongoing classified communications without properly notifying the authorities could constitute willful retention under the Espionage Act, thereby creating a significant risk of legal liability. Mitigating factor, prompt notification and removal strongly mitigates. I don't know. They're saying credible risk of prosecution and conviction under the Espionage Act. But how is this different than the Edward Snowden situation where a reporter, comma, if you want to consider Glenn one, comma, continued to receive classified information over a long period of time from a source, period. In other words, he didn't receive it just once and contact the Pentagon and say, oh my God, NSA, comma, Edward gave me lots of information, comma, he continued to receive the classified information, period. Would that not put that reporter at risk of the Espionage Act as well? Let's see. The problem is I find ChatGPT sometimes just agrees with you too. It's good, but it's a little weird. Several key distinctions. The reporter was unintentionally included. If he continued silently, this could be legally viewed as willful retention of classified information. Snowden, Greenwald, and other reporters actively received leaked information from Snowden. Snowden knowingly provided this information with intent to expose the government. Greenwald received the information specifically as a journalist with a clear intention of investigating and publishing matters. Oh, so they're saying that that's kind of a First Amendment thing because acting as a reporter, a source came to you confidentially, right? Like, sources are protected, I'm going to guess. Interesting. If the hypothetical reporter received classified information quietly and never published it or attempted to publish it, the protections offered by the First Amendment weaken significantly. Oh, that's interesting. Interesting. Okay. Anyway, I don't know that Signal knows, but it's very interesting. That's very interesting. Huh. Well, the chat would not be titled as classified. No, because it's literally the men chatting. But the information would still be classified. Hillary's emails, some of them were classified retroactively because, thank you, Joey, some of them were classified retroactively because she or others had discussed information that later the FBI looked at and said, ooh, that was kind of sensitive. That should have been classified. It wasn't classified at the time because they weren't thinking it was classified. So the information would be classified. They knew it was classified. They thought they were on a secure system, which they shouldn't have thought too, because they were probably using regular cell phones that are not secure. I don't know. I'm very intrigued. Very intrigued. You know? Boop. Goodbye. Yeah, very interesting. Well, obviously, why was a reporter added in the first place? Honestly, the thing is, they did bomb Yemen on time. So I think this stuff was real. I don't know how they added the reporter by accident. I don't know how. Well, here's the thing too. On Signal, you don't, I'm trying to remember, but I think, as I recall on Signal, once you create a group, you join the group and you look at the chat. Once the chat's happening, the name of the group scrolls off the screen. I'm pretty sure. Remind me. I'd have to check this. I've got Signal on my phone, but I'm using it as my my camera for the show right now. I'm pretty sure the group like disappears and it just scrolls off the screen so that you're chatting with the group. You're not going, or would you see every name of everybody in that group at the top of the screen every time on Signal? Does anybody remember? Or does anybody have Signal that you can pull up if you're in a group chat? I just don't remember. Yeah, but does the group stay at the chat or every single person in the group? And if you've got 100 people in the group, are there 100 names at the top of your phone that stay at the top? I doubt it. Felicia, you know what I mean? Would it? I don't know. That bingo, the group name stays at the top. That's my point. Hey, you again. The group name stays at the top. Yeah. Yeah. Bingo. So they would create a group that says they called it PC. What was PC again? Principal committee or something? PC, whatever, Yemen, whatever they called it. Right. And then they included people in it. Well, you're just going to see PC Yemen at the top of the screen. You're not going to know who's in the group. And then the people who respond in the group, their names pop up, but the reporter's not responding to people. So his name isn't popping up. You'd have to literally click on the group, go to the main page for the group and look at the members. You know, that's the thing. Now that's the other question. Lily asks, is Signal cleared as a secure comms for national security? I don't know. That's a very good question. I don't know. Clearly, one of the concerns is these guys are using their regular phones, and regular phones, apparently from the article I was reading, are totally hackable. So that even if Signal is secure, their phones are not secure. So people would still, in other words, they would, your phone's not secure. So I'm guessing the Russians or whoever are watching you type in the keyboard, for example, right? It's because basically Signal is encrypted, but your screen isn't encrypted. So the Russians could read your screen. The Russians could read your keyboard, right? So anyway, unbelievable, these people. What's not, Courtney? Sorry, I'm forgetting what were you referring to? Oh, it's not cleared, you're saying. Oh, interesting. The government has their own encrypted servers and messaging. Oh, interesting. So Signal isn't even cleared for them to be using. So they were doing war plans using a chat server. Well, you know what? It kind of makes sense because Signal is still a private company, right? Right? I mean, why would you wouldn't allow it? I mean, you wouldn't want to be having war plans discussed by a private company or on a private company's servers. That's weird. It's a little weird. Wow. Yeah, but her emails, exactly, Manana. Wow. Yeah. Bingo. That's exactly what I was thinking, pediatric nurse, was the messages are encrypted once they're sent. But on the screen, if someone's hacked your phone, they're reading your screen. So they're reading all the messages on your phone. They're just not reading them as they leave your phone and come into your phone. But once they're on your phone, they can read them because your phone's hacked. Signal is not owned by Musk. No, it's not. I don't think so, from what I recall. I think that's one of those things that is separate. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, but WhatsApp is even worse. You're joking about the WhatsApp thing. Exactly. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. No, they're amazing. They're amazing. Anyway. Oh man. So did I tell you guys, I don't know if anybody out, we should ask people if people are out there, if anybody knows people at UPS. My UPS nightmare, I shipped a number of things from my mom when my mom died last year, and shipped some of her dishes and things I wanted, the family tree that she painted, a couple of her paintings. I dropped them at UPS in October. I still haven't gotten them yet. The UPS store back home keeps giving me bullshit reasons for they haven't even priced them yet. It's been 5 months. I kid you not. At this point, I finally went ballistic on Twitter, and UPS corporate weighed in, and now they've got UPS store corporate supposedly going to contact me. 5 months. And every time I've called, the first time I called, I gave the guy a week or two because I was being nice. And I called. Oh my God. And I've got to be careful because TikTok doesn't like these conversations. One of the employees ended his life, basically. And we're all falling apart, and I just didn't get to it. And what do you tell the guy when he tells you that, the store manager, right? Small town America. Of course you say, oh my God. Okay, if you can get to it in a week or two, that's great. A couple of weeks pass, he gave me another bullshit answer. It's into November. A couple of weeks pass, it's December. I call. He goes, well, it's Christmas. We haven't been able to hire the staff we need because of the economy and stuff. And I'm so overwhelmed. I swear we're going to get to it, but we're really backlogged. But at this point, I'm going, it's been 2 months you've had my boxes, right? January. Guys, I'm not going to say this. I finally started keeping detailed records of my phone calls so that I now have transcripts of my phone calls. It is now March, 5 months later. Last time he said some guy in the office needed to review them first. Then the next call was, oh, the guy reviews them and got me quotes, but the quotes were wrong. I've got to redo them. Then the last time was, oh, he's gone today, but I've got bullshit. I think he lost my boxes or they stole my boxes. UPS, 5 freaking months UPS has had my boxes and have not mailed them. Haven't even given me a quote yet. The one quote they did do, they lied about. I called, I gave them the dimensions of the 3 paintings, the size, the width, the weight. This kid took 20 minutes to give me, and he told me, okay, that painting's 60, that painting's 60, that one's 80, to pack them and to ship them. The manager, whose name is Bear, who is clearly trouble, tells me, oh, well, I can tell you, again, after months, oh, well, I can tell you right now, those paintings are going to be $200 or $300 or even more each. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Your employee told me $60 to $80. That's why I brought them to you. Oh, well, I don't know who that was. That's why we don't give quotes. I'm like, you literally gave me a quote. Yeah. But more importantly, 5 freaking months. And I cannot get the guy to call me back. I call now and he avoids my calls. I mean, 5 months. I'm ready to file a police report. So anyway, I finally went online. I don't know why I waited. I mean, I waited this long because he kept giving me bullshit answers. But I was like, I felt bad. Somebody died. Somebody, the employee. Oh, 2 weeks ago, I just got back from surgery. I was very sick. I mean, at some point you're like, either this is the most unlucky guy on the planet or literally he stole my stuff and I'm being played, right? The UPS stole my stuff and I don't know what the hell happened. I know I am this close to filing a police report. I already told them. I told the UPS guy, but I was a little nicer when I wrote UPS. I basically told them about my following online. I told them I worked in the Senate. I told them I was a reporter for The Economist, among others. I had been, in the past, that I worked on Capitol Hill. I knew people in the administration. I knew people in Congress. And if they think I'm going to let them get away with taking my mother's inheritance, including my family tree, I've been way too nice to this guy. Way too nice. Oh no, it's a UPS location. It's a UPS store. Oh yeah. Yeah. No, but I mean, the thing is, like, I hate this stuff. I hate having to fight with companies because in the end, you'll probably win, right? But the level of in the law, we call this emotional distress. I'm dealing with the fact that my mother died last year. I've got my but I say my inheritance, meaning some of the nicest things I wanted, some of her paintings, her hand-painted family tree of my family going back 250 years that she did by hand, this son of a bitch has. And one time I called and one woman answers the phone, one of his deputies, and goes, I don't know what you're talking about. We don't have any, and she really nasty. We don't have any boxes. I said, excuse me, ma'am. I dropped the box. You didn't drop boxes in October. I'm like, excuse me? Like, I didn't drop boxes in October? Well, I'm just telling you, there's no boxes here. I was like, well, there better be boxes there. Anyway, yes, they're franchises. UPS years ago, UPS tried to give me the song and dance that they're franchises. We don't have anything to deal with them. And I was like, they've literally got your name and you literally have a legal contract with them. Don't tell me you have nothing to do with them. But this time, so help me God. Let's just say, and again, it's even worse. He didn't give me a receipt because I brought my cable box in too, because Comcast has a deal with UPS. It took him 45 minutes to take my cable box. 45 minutes to check it in. He got it and he sat there. He couldn't find the number. He looked it up. He couldn't look it up. 45 minutes of this guy checking in my cable box. And that's when he said, well, I don't have time to do your paintings and your boxes now. Leave them. We will repack them and then I'll call you with an estimate. So I didn't get a piece of paper. Having said that, let's just suffice it to say, I have proof of our phone calls, of him admitting he's got my boxes. Let's just leave it at that. So I've got the proof I need. But my God, I am so pissed. I am so livid about this. But as I said, I mentioned it just because I don't know. Sometimes, some of you guys out there work for companies and things. If anybody knows anybody at UPS, but my God, and let's see. I mean, again, and I finally, like I said, I went on Twitter on Friday. Finally, the UPS people, on Twitter reached out today. I gave them the information and they said there's a UPS store, which is one of their subsidiaries that handles this stuff. I think they stole my stuff. I think he threw it out. But let's see. I'm not convinced it's there. The thing is that will be my next call too. I'm going to call the local Chicago News and tell them, my mother died. They threw out what I had from my mother. I didn't take much of what my mom had, right? How much stuff can I take? They literally appear to have lost or given away or stolen what I have left from my mother. Nothing's insured. There's no documentation. They took it. They didn't insure it. They didn't do anything. That's the problem. I mean, no, this is a store I've been going to for decades. That's why I left it. I've been going there. It's small town America. You go for decades. You know what I mean? But you're right. In the future, I should say, no, you're not. You're going to write me out a piece of paper that says the 6 things I left. Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. I mean, no, I will do small claims. It's going to be hard, but honestly, I'm going to destroy them publicly. I'm going to have to do small claims. I am going to file a police report against them. It's conversion of property at the very least. My brother-in-law is going to the store. They're lucky he's out of town next week because I finally told my brother-in-law this weekend. My brother-in-law is not somebody you want to mess with. I mean, I'm not somebody you want to mess with in terms of this stuff. My brother-in-law, just in general, is not somebody who tolerates. He's a good Chicagoan. He does not tolerate people stealing from him. So that's going to be interesting when he goes by. Because at this point, I just want my damn boxes. Give me my damn boxes. I'm going to FedEx. These people have literally stolen my property at UPS. I'm like, I want my boxes back. I'm going to FedEx. I'm writing a review online. I'm contacting the Better Business Bureau. I'm reporting them to all the agencies. I mean, it's insane at this point. Absolutely insane. Anyway. But yes, I'm mentioning it just in case, like I said. Sorry, Bully. Did you have a super chat? Did you hear that Trump would accept an offer to join the British Commonwealth? Oh God. First of all, I doubt he would. That would be insane. I don't even know what that, I mean, thank you for that. That's insane. That's absolutely insane. That's insane. I should have pictures. I've got to look, but I should have pictures of the boxes. Yeah. Yeah. Again, I've got the guy admitting that he's got my boxes. I mean, so help me God. I mean, so help me God. No, I've got at least the corporate people. Again, the corporate people, when you reach them through Twitter, are sometimes the good guys. I am hoping these guys, and I doubt this guy's going to lie to them. And if he does lie, let's just say, then I'm going to bring forth other evidence that's going to be, then he's going to lose his franchise. Because I've got him dead to rights, acknowledging that he's got my property. But that's what I mean. This is conversion at this point. No, I'm going to sell my brother-in-law. My brother-in-law is her husband. He's better. He's going to go and get my boxes. But also, as I said, fortunately, the UPS store corporate people, UPS itself corporate gave it to the UPS store corporate that supposedly will get a hold of me in 2 to 4 days. Let's see what they say. They have a history of going, oh, we have nothing to do with our stores. And you're like, really? Then how do they use your name? Clearly, you've got a legal agreement. Clearly, you've got standards for using your logo. Clearly, you've got standards for what the store looks like. Clearly, you've got standards for how the store operates. Don't give me this. You don't have standards that you enforce with your stores. But yeah, but you're right. I need to call like 7 on your side. I need to call the local Chicago news people. And honestly, I'll book a freaking plane ticket and go back at that point. Because so help me God. So help me God. I will call the local TV affiliates. Anyway, it just gets me very upset. Like, I haven't slept well the last few days because, again, I called him like last Wednesday or Thursday. He wasn't there. I explained to another guy, oh my God, yes, I'm going to give him the message immediately and have him call you right back. Yeah, it's been 5 days now. What a surprise he hasn't called back. I really do. I think he threw my stuff out or sold it. Oh God. Anyway, yes. So this has been upsetting me, and it's been making it at least, as I said, I have the corporate allegedly looking into this. Let's see what they say. But the next step is going to be my brother and the news media coming. My brother-in-law, I mean. And my brother-in-law, it's not going to be pretty if they're sitting on my boxes. And the news media is going to be even less pretty, I think. But let's see. You know, it might be lost. Oh no, it might be. It's a small store though. It's a small store. They better not have. You know, they better not have. Oh, it's the UPS store on Butterfield Road in Elmhurst, Illinois. But yeah, let's see. Oh man. I know that's the thing. FedEx, trust me, I thought about the FedEx thing. I thought about calling FedEx and say, you want an ad? I got an ad for you. You know, let's see what UPS says first. But then I'm also calling people in Washington, and I'm going to call friends in Washington and see if anybody here can do anything either. Because if UPS thinks they're going to create these stores and there's literally no legal connection to them, then that's bullshit. Then somebody ought to be regulating that. And somebody in Congress ought to be regulating that if UPS thinks there's literally no connection between them and their stores can just literally rob you and that has no ramifications. You know, let's see. All right. It's over an hour and a half and my battery is getting low on my iPad anyway. I mean, everybody can be bad at some point, but I just can't even believe this at this point. Hillary just tweeted, "You've got to be kidding me." Did she really? Oh God, I can only imagine from her. That's really funny. Oh man. Unbelievable. But all right. All right. Yep. Oh, it got muted. I don't know why it got here. Oh, you know what? I unplugged it. You know what? It should be okay now. I'm assuming I just unplugged my speaker. Hold on. The YouTube, the TikTok people, can you hear now or not? Okay. I think because I've only got 8% left on my iPad, it's starting to cut back on stuff. And I think it cut the microphone trying to save energy. So I unplugged the microphone. So, all right, I'm going to go, guys. Thank you for joining us. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you for the gifts. Thank you for joining us. I'll be back tomorrow, 6:00 Eastern, as you well know. TikTok, or I should say Discord. Let me start with you, then YouTube, then TikTok. All right. Thank you for the gift there. All right, real quick. All right, Discord. See you guys. Boom. There we go. All right, YouTube. See you all. And then TikTok. See you guys.